recap.
Well, we all gathered to enter into the deep roads. Apparently, Rothschild had to stay behind because he was the chosen one. And so it occurred to them to not send him down there. That place is a death trap. Keep the chosen one back with them. It turned out the deep roads were, I don't know if they were just less well worked than the part of the Flint Hills we saw, but the roads, the walls and tunnel complexes appeared to be much more rough-hewn than what we had seen previously. We eventually came to a large tunnel that seemed like it went down several miles and twisted and turned pretty much straight down, though. So we figured out a way to get everyone down, but there was one extra person.
First person voted out of Survivor Ghost Island.
Jericho got sent back and was going to accompany Rothschild back. They also locked the door behind us, so I wasn't really sure that Jericho was going to be able to get out or was just going to go back to that door and wait. We made it to an area that looked more well-worked, where we saw toads, which freaked Breaker out because his only real encounter with toads before this was the exploding toads.
And he tosses the toad at you. He throws it and it hits you and it explodes. And you.
But nobody else was around for the exploding toads, so I'm sure it just seemed weird why Breaker was afraid of toads. Durbin also seemed to be a little weirded out by the toads. There were a lot of
they were magical.
There were a lot of skeletons laying around that had no spine and no lower half. A couple of them had no skulls. We saw images of a dwarf, illusions of a dwarf named Emir, and then there were carvings of him cooking. Apparently he had a restaurant down here. I couldn't really figure out what happened to the restaurant, but it seems as if business had fallen off and he moved on. We came to some apes, or at least the spirits of apes that were guarding some double doors. Breaker didn't even occur to Breaker to ask, hey, how did apes get down here? But in the afterlife, Brachius was going nuts, wondering why the appropriate questions weren't being asked. The ape spirits wouldn't let us pass the doors until we convinced them that we had no magic on us. So they let us go through, but apparently they knew we did have magic and were only planning on trapping us inside. They did warn us that there were magic users already trapped inside, which I believe were the 2 8-foot-tall horse people that we met inside, the glue merchants, Elmer and DuPont.
What?
Yes, Elmer and DuPont, the horse glue merchants.
Model glue, sir.
Well, what do we have today?
Today we have a recent vintage procured just this morning from Michael's hobby shop.
Bring me my finest rag.
Were the 2 we had to fight because they wound up getting into, I forget who they got into an argument with. They were getting, Breaker was getting along with them.
Serene.
Yep.
They did want to buy Serene's armor, and Serene was unwilling to sell. But eventually they became hostile. We had to fight and kill them.
The circle of life for glue merchants.
Right. So we then backed up and discovered that the double doors leading in here were locked. We started chipping away at the sides of the walls around the doors, trying to get through them when we couldn't just force the doors open directly. Eventually we made a little hole and we could see the ape spirits outside. We started attacking them with various things we had that didn't require us to see them. Then 2 of us dimension doored out, Durbin and Breaker dimension doored outside, where we started attacking the ape spirits, but trying to carefully dance around stepping on any of the increasingly interested swarms of toads, the hypnotoads that were following us around.
All glory to the hypnotoad!
Eventually, Brachius, realizing that something bad was going to happen because of these are toads, nonetheless felt he had to step into the swarm of toads to get at the last ape spirit. And it turned out the swarms of toads were actually way more dangerous than the ape spirit, and started attacking us all. But we did manage to kill off the last of the toads but only after Dr. Go-Go Days tried to make a bomb out of the blue light specials that Breaker is now going to strip off of him because he's not allowed to have them anymore.
I was just doing what 13 told. He's just doing what 13 told him to do.
He was only following orders.
So he tried to blow up the door, but they managed to get the door open with the dispel magic and didn't need to do that. The now bombed blue light specials were thrown at the last swarm of toads in the distance and blew them up.
In Serene's defense, those were kind of shifty motherfuckers.
To the Hypno Toad!